Give everybody a second to get on. How y'all doing? I'm so excited. Thanks for being here. All right, so we are getting all set up. Thank you for being here for first ever Facebook Live, so it's a little crazy, working out technical details. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm super excited to hang out with all you guys tonight. We've been talking a lot about how to create a winning freestyle routine. So my business partner, Jack McCauley, and I are always brainstorming what you guys want to see and what you guys want to hear and what you guys want to learn about. So what we have been getting a lot of feedback about is how to create a freestyle routine. So there is a lot of content out there about how to do it, and there's a lot of different methods for creating a freestyle routine. But today we wanted to go over some of the inside tips that I use to create different freestyle routines for my dogs. And one of the kind of cool things over time, as you start to work with different dogs, you might have your first disc dog right now, or maybe you had your first disc dog and now you just got a second disc dog, and you're trying to figure out how to create a freestyle routine that's different from the freestyle routine you created for your first disc dog. And that can actually be really challenging. Your first disc dog, you kind of do everything organically and you learn as you go, and you put everything in the routine that you know how to do, every throw, every move, and you put them in combinations together that work and have you create something that's 90 seconds or 2 minutes long. And that's pretty much how it starts. You learn your basic skills and you put them together, and that's the routine that you have with your first dog. And then you fall in love with the sport, you get totally addicted, you want to play more, and you get a second disc dog. But then how do you put together another freestyle routine that isn't the same as the first one? So there is a method to the madness. There's lots of methods to the madness. So we're going to go over some of the really cool things that I love doing, building freestyle routines for my dogs. And I will tell you that I sometimes get completely overwhelmed by having to create a new freestyle routine for one of my dogs. So even though I've done it a lot of times, it seems like a big task. It seems a little bit overwhelming, and so that's totally normal. So we want this process to be as fun as possible, so we're going to give you some cool tips and tricks. Okay, so thank you guys, everybody, for being here. Jack is also going to help from afar in Maryland answer any questions. He just said that. Same page, woohoo! It's always nice. Yeah, so if you have any questions, Jack will try to answer them, and he'll also try and alert me for anything that I need to address or answer on the live, so that I can keep up with what you guys are asking. Okay, so the first thing about creating your freestyle routine is ultimately you're creating a freestyle routine to compete or to do some sort of performance in front of people. And so in order to do a great job of delivering a freestyle routine that's judged, right? So not on the performance side, but on the competition side, is you need to know who's judging you and what the rules and the structure is of the different organizations that you're competing. So there are several different disc dog organizations, and all of them have slightly different rules and slightly different strategies. So what I like to do is I like to take the most difficult or robust or comprehensive format for freestyle routine building, like what that organization's looking for, and then I build it around that. And then everything else pretty much lines up. So I'll put that in English. In my opinion, the USCDN format has the most information for how to build a structure for your freestyle routine. Because on there, the team category, when you're being judged, so you're going to be judged in pretty much every organization by your handler score. You're going to have a handler score, a dog score, which is sometimes called athleticism, and then you have a team score, and then you have a success score. Those are the four main categories that you're looking at. And the human category is going to really kind of define what your skills are as a human handler. So are you using different grips and throws? That's super important to have those. To have those in your routine. You want to have, in general, I would say when you first start out, you want to have 3 different grips and releases in your freestyle routine. So a different grip means the way that you're holding the disc is going to be different. So a regular backhand grip versus like a sidearm grip or an overhand wrist flip grip, those are all different grips. So the judge of the human category is going to be watching and paying attention to how many different grips that you're doing. And then there's different releases that go with each of those grips. So as a handler category, you want to be paying attention to your throws, the disc management on the field, and the distance of the different throws that you're throwing. So you don't want to throw all short or all long stuff. You want to have short, intermediate, and long. And then your overall management of the routine. So for the player category, we're really looking at how you're managing the dog, how you're managing the field, what your throws look like. Are you throwing them to elicit leaping and showcase your dog really well? Are you handling your dog safely? That's your player category. And then you have the athleticism or the dog category. And the dog category is where you're going to show the dog's drive and athleticism, their grip on the disc. Are they holding the disc nicely? Are they chomping on it, not wanting to give it back? That's going to hurt your dog score. Will they retrieve the disc to your hand? Will they drop at a distance? Those are all different categories for your dog. And for the most part, a dog doesn't have to leap big to score really well in the athleticism category. You can really showcase the dog's speed and cutting ability or their tricks and their intellect. It doesn't need to be just big jumping skills. So athleticism means more than just big jumping. But if your dog does jump well, you want to make sure that your throwing as a handler elicits the jumping of the dog. Okay, so what that means is when you throw a disc out to your dog, you want the disc flying and hovering at a certain point. So when the dog gets to that position, they can just leap up and catch it. And it shows a really nice, pretty leap. You don't want the dog waiting underneath for a long time for the disc to come down. And you also don't want the dog diving into the ground to kind of save the throw. Even though the dog catches those things, neither one of those things are going to really help your score. If the dog's waiting for the disc to come down from really high, or if the dog is digging really hard to get it, that's not going to help your handler score. It may give you a little boost in the dog category for their drive, but overall, you want to pay attention to make sure that you're putting the disc in the right place. So that as soon as the dog gets there, it's a really nice interception and a leap or a nice catch where the dog doesn't have to wait for it. So that's your handler and your dog category. There's a lot more to that, but those are the generals, okay? And then we have this cool team category. And this team category is where all the really good stuff comes in, where you can start to get an idea of what the skills are of the dog, how you're going to showcase it, okay? And that's where I start getting into the routine building part. So in the USDDN format, there's 7 categories. Only 4 of them are going to be kept as scores, and the bottom 3 are going to be dropped. So you don't need all 7 categories. You don't have to have a dog that vaults. You don't have to have a dog that does an over. You don't have to have a dog catch if your dog doesn't like a dog catch. But if your dog is able to do all of those skills, what that does allow you to do is take your top 4 of those 7 and drop your lowest 3. Now, if you only have 4 of those skills, all 4 of those points are points you're going to have to keep. Okay, so it's a little bit of a strategy for USDDN. Now, I use the USDDN format to build my routines because I think that if you have all of the different categories inside of that format in your routine, you can also win any of the other organizations. So in general, if you're kind of mapping out your freestyle routine, what do I put in here? I would suggest following a USDDN format, looking at the team category, and then breaking down those separate elements. So you need 2 different vaults, okay? And by 2 different vaults, that means it can be a leg vault both times, but you want to have your body in a different position. You want to change the throw. You could do a leg vault from a kneeling position and a leg vault from a standing position, and both of those would count as a leg vault. Or as in the vaulting category. You also need to have a dog catch in that 7 categories, but you don't have to have a dog catch if your dog's not comfortable being caught. But that's an area where you can really showcase a cool skill, and your dog's creativity is in the dog catch category. And big overs are like one of my favorite things to do in the whole world. There's so much fun. There's so much creativity you can do there. And so 2 different overs is something they're looking for in that format as well. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit more of the nitty gritty. So we have some of the inside stuff. We have vaults, overs, dog catch, right? And most people know that you're looking to have those things in your freestyle routine when you're building it out. But you also need stuff where you're using the field. So instead of just throwing long so that you can pick up all your discs and then do another inside set, what you want to showcase is your dog's ability to use the field. So you want to do some directional movement and also some passing. So we're going to break down what those two things mean. So directional movement is when you're moving your dog on a working flank. Okay, so a working flank means the dog is staying on the line that the dog is on. Most common one that you're going to see of these are called zigzags. You've probably seen these in most people's freestyle routines. And I will tell you, I believe that it is the most difficult portion of a freestyle routine to execute at a high level with success. So about 80% of the time when I'm practicing and building a freestyle routine with my dogs, I'm working directional movement in that session. Because that's a timing game. It needs excellence of the throw execution to make sure that the dog isn't waiting or digging into the ground for those. And it also requires your dog having an understanding of staying on a working flank. So let's break down what the zigzag look like. The zigzag looks like you're standing at a set point here, and then you're throwing kind of in a pie wedge, maybe 10, 15 yards, maybe 10 yards is about a good distance away from your dog, but your dog is staying on that 10-yard line away from you. And what that shows the judges is that your dog is able to keep on that working flank instead of coming back to the handler each time that you throw. So when we first start playing disc, we throw a disc to the dog. The dog usually brings the disc right back, goes around, and goes back out again. That's our traditional toss and fetch format, right? But our directional movement, the dog is going to be staying on that working flank at a distance. So that's a trained skill. We're not going to break down how to do each of these skills in this live, but I want you to know that the directional movement is important to showcase to a judge that your dog can use a working flank. Another example of directional movement is a little less common, a little less popular, and that's an around the world. And that's when the dog stays on a circular working flank. These are really common for dogs that have a strong herding desire to circle anyway. You can use that. You just want to make sure that the flank that the dog is on is also workable for the throws that you have. So if I'm a left-handed backhand thrower, which I am, I want my dog's working flank to be counterclockwise so that as I'm moving around in a circle, I can throw on my strong side. Okay, if my dog runs clockwise and I'm a left-handed backhand thrower, I'm going to have to throw reverse spin for each of those throws, which makes it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so I want you to start thinking about different working flanks you can use for your dogs. We have a zigzag, it's that back and forth at about a 10-yard mark, and then also an around the world, which goes all the way around. And those are the two most common that you're going to see for directional movement. That's something I would definitely recommend having in your freestyle routine. We have a question. How can you translate a zigzag or an around the world well into a skyhounds when you only have 5 discs or up dog with 8? Okay, fantastic question. And this is perfect because this is where we're talking about different organizations, right? So the Skyhounds format changes the strategy because they only allow 5 discs and there's a 90-second format instead of a 2-minute format. So the element that I drop is directional movement. It usually takes about 30 seconds to execute that, and it takes more disc management to execute that, so it spreads it out. So when I'm playing Skyhounds, I take my exact same USDDN routine and I drop my directional movement. And that usually puts me right at 90 seconds and I don't need to change anything else. It solves all my disc management problems. I can just drop those 2 discs and play with 5 instead of 7. I typically play with 7 discs at every single organization, just so my disc management doesn't change at all. My routine is set for that. And then when I play Skyhounds, I drop directional movement and drop 2 discs. And that tends to work pretty well. Good question. Am I collecting discs during this time? When you're doing directional movement, you want to make sure you have all the discs you need before you start that set. One of the real telltale signs of a newer player is when you're picking up a disc, throwing it, and then picking up a disc, throwing it, picking up a disc, throwing it. So you want to try and prepare each of your sets with the amount of discs that you need for that set. And we're going to get a little bit more into that later. Okay, so the next element other than directional movement that I wanted to talk about is passing. Now, passing, if you have a throw that is super cool, that you're great at, that really showcases your dog's athleticism, this is the place to use it. So passing means that the dog is going to pass the plane of the handler close to the handler twice on the same side. So you can throw an out throw at the end of one of your sets. When your dog comes back in, they're going to pass right by you instead of going around, right? So that's, again, it's a skill. The dog has to pass the plane of the handler and go get a second disc that's being thrown this way. And then the dog has to pass again on the same side, which again is a skill. A lot of our dogs will naturally go behind us. We want them to go in front and pass close to the handler again. Now, it doesn't need to be a super long throw. It can be short or intermediate throws, but it is a great opportunity to showcase a nice long throw that you have for your dog. And again, we want to make sure that we are showcasing short, intermediate, and long throws in our freestyle routine in order for it to be a balanced freestyle routine. One little kind of fun note about Skyhounds is their success category is the only category, the only disc catching category, the success category in Skyhounds is the only one that's subjective. So in every other organization, success equals the exact amount of discs thrown divided by the exact amount of discs caught. So you can get a percentage of how much your dog successfully caught, correct? But in Skyhounds, that's a subjective score. So it doesn't equal the percentage. The percentage is kind of like a baseline of what that score is. And your score can really be like a whole point higher or a whole point lower than what your actual raw percentage is. And that's determined by elements like, are you only throwing short throws? Are you only throwing backhands? Are you only throwing, are you throwing short, intermediate, and long throws with difficult throws, and maybe your dog didn't catch them? You'll still get a boost in your success category, even if your dog didn't catch it, if it's a well-executed throw that is done at a varied distance instead of just a short little throw. So that's a whole nother kind of mentality when you're approaching Skyhounds. Their success category is subjective. It's not a raw score. So it's really important that you have short, intermediate, and long throws, and that you have a display of something other than a backhand throw. Otherwise, your success score, even if you had an 8.5 and 85% catch ratio, you might get a 7.5 if you're throwing all short backhands, or a 7. There were times when I first started in disc and I was playing Moxie and I didn't really understand how all the judging went. And I would go out and like kill my routine and we would have maybe 5 or 7 drops. We had a lot, but we would get a higher success score than the raw score that we had. And I was always confused why that happened. And it's because we had high difficulty moves that were executed well, but we just didn't quite get there. And so they would give me a little bit of a boost in that success category. But it also works the same way on the other side. Huckleberry was the second dog that I worked with right after Moxie. And for him, our freestyle was slower. We had less throws. And so I would actually get dinged on the success score, even if we had a very high catch percentage, because he would catch everything. We would get a lower success score because our routine was slower and we didn't have as many throws. So that's just something to keep in mind for Skyhound specifically, that the success score is subjective. Can they go through your legs and throw out? Will that count as passing? That's a great question, Tammy. Yes, technically yes. And overs count as well. According to the people I've spoken with, USDDN, the main people on the board, that was a question that was brought up at Worlds before. So overs count as passing as well. And I do have an over in my passing segment with Leap. So when you're in a local judging scenario, like you're at your club and you're at a qualifier, they may not know that. And so you want to give grace to anyone who is judging local competitions. They are there as volunteers, volunteering their time, and they may or may not be experts in the sport, and their butts are in the judging seat and not out there on the field. So if they don't nail every single thing perfectly in regards to what they're seeing, just have a little grace for the judges. That when you get to a world's level, that's when you'll get real clear on judging in regards to what exactly counts as what. But yes, an over would count there. Passing through your legs would count there as well. Let me see if there's any other questions that I missed. The moments when I'm doing directional movement, I'm always standing or kneeling still, and it makes the handler movement clunky. What do you do to maintain a level of dynamic handler movement in these moments? I love this question. I love that question. So what she's asking for is, in directional movement, typically the handler is pretty static. And you're throwing at this position, right? The 10-yard spot. So I just had this conversation with Jack like a month ago about his routine with Maverick. You can add handler movement in there So I spin in mine. I have a jumping chair throw in mine. You can throw one way and then somersault out to another position and throw the other way. You can move. I just don't move like, you don't want to break that distance to the dog. Now, if your dog naturally kind of creeps in as you're doing directional movement, you can move back. And if your dog is getting further away or you throw one a little bit further away, you can move towards them. But what I try to maintain is that 10-yard that 10-yard rubber band distance in directional movement. But yeah, absolutely. As a handler, move. You're just not going to be moving like 10 yards one direction or another. Just move in your spot. Spin, roll. I have a fidget where I catch it behind my back, spin, throw this way, and then I spin and do a jumping chair that direction. And I think it would be cool to add like a side roll, a backflip. There's all kinds, like a handstand. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do as a handler and not really move a lot. Like, don't change your location much, but you can do a lot of handler movement in that space. That's a lot of fun. I want to see somebody somersault. I asked Jack to do it and I haven't seen him do it yet. Usually I'm glad to be on the field and not in the chair judging. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that, I think I'm pretty much caught up on questions on that one. Okay, so we're talking about the organizations, right? So I build my freestyle routine around USDDN format. So far, we've talked about some of the skills. We have vaults, overs, dog catches. You want to have 2 different vaults, 2 different overs. And then I think it's only 1 dog catch right now, but I've heard that they're changing that to 2, but I don't know if that's been done yet. So don't call me on that one. And then we have directional movement and we have passing. So those are important elements to make sure that you have in your freestyle routine with your dog when you're starting to build out the framework of stuff. Another one that's great to put in the beginning-ish or in the middle of the routine, and we can kind of talk about the cadence of a routine, but multiples is another one. So multiples is like a juggle. A juggle technically is when you're exchanging the disc, like you throw one and then you take it from the dog's mouth and then throw the next one, take the dog's mouth, throw it and take the dog's mouth. Or a multiple, maybe you have 5 discs in your hand, you go boom, 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 right? So either one of those are fine. Multiples are a fantastic opportunity to showcase a dog that loves tricks, or you have some really cool releases. If you have some cool fidgets, you definitely want to put a multiple in your routine. I would say the only time to really avoid this is if you have a dog that does not have a nice handoff and they're going to struggle with handing the disc off to you. Skip it. Don't put it in your routine. It's not going to help you. I did not have a multiple with Huckleberry. It did impact my overall amount of discs being thrown. So in a 90-second format, he was usually under 20 discs being thrown. And if we had a multiple, maybe we'd be over 20, 25, which would be more in the normal range. But you do want to consider if your dog is not going to be dropping that disc and that's going to be a disc management problem, that's going to hurt your score more than having the extra throws in there. And if you're going to have a multiple, this should be something that is like a high percentage catch. Okay? You don't want to have 4 or 5 of these things and have 3 of them be drops. It defeats the purpose. You want your multiple to support your success in the catch ratio category. All right. Thank you, Melissa. I like that you guys are answering questions for me. Would you recommend building around USDDN or around Skyhounds? That was the question she just answered. Yeah, it was around USDDN, for sure. I don't build anything around Skyhounds at all. In terms of distances, what's considered long and intermediate? Good question. I would say anything inside 10 yards is going to be short. Anything 10 to 20 yards is intermediate, and then 30 yards plus is going to be a longer throw. I think I only have 1 throw in my routine that's 30 yards, and that's my staker, and it's specifically put there as a long throw to showcase that he can do it, right? So the other thing about throwing long is it sucks up a lot of time, and you want to make sure you have time to pick up all your discs, and then you want to be moving towards your dog. So don't wait around for your dog to come to you. Okay, so if you have the field, if you're drawing a field, put a plus sign in the middle of the field. I want the human in all 4 of those quadrants and not in the middle section of the quadrants, like the little square in the middle where all the humans go. I want the human and the dog to be working in all 4 of those sections. So if you have a long throw, right, in your routine, 30 plus yards, Pick up the discs that you need for your next set, move towards your dog. That's really going to show a high level of skill. Most new players don't do that. I would say really only the top players use the field like that. And that's because they've planned out their disc management. They know exactly how many they need. So let's go a little bit into that section. We touched on a little bit earlier about having the discs that you need. So for each of your segments, when you're building your freestyle routine, I want you guys to know how many discs you need for that segment, and then have an idea where you're going to be getting those discs from. So where your discs are on the field, how many you can gather, and then how many you need for that section. Now let's say you need 5 discs for this section, but you only have 4. And the other 3 that you have are really far away in another part of the field, and you're going to need that for your directional movement at some other part. So there's no way that you can go get those discs, right? And you're only allowed, let's say you're only allowed 7 discs. Let's just paint that scenario. You can create having another disc by doing movements like a fish or a handoff exchange with your dog. So this is where you can start to get a little bit creative. I have a section of my routine with Leap where I had a disc management problem. And so when he did a flip, I just do a fish. Fish is when you take the disc from the dog's mouth after they catch it. So it's a flip, he catches the flip, and on the way down, I take the disc and he hands it off to me, and then I have that disc back. So that takes that section from needing 5 discs, you only need 4 because you have a fish. So these little handoffs that you can do in your routine, they serve 2 purposes. 1, it's great for disc management, it gets you an extra disc in your hand. And 2, it showcases your dog's ability to have a creative retrieve. And in the USDDN format, that's a scored category, having your retrieves. Okay, so this is a cool way where you can have your dog come up on a back stall, perhaps, hand it off, and then roll off your back. Or Leap has a running scoot, which was actually awful to train. It took me like a year to train him to do that. And it's still one of the trickiest parts of our thing, because once he gets excited, he doesn't always carry it all the way back in. So I'm calling Scoot from 30 yards away, please bring me the disc. Right? He runs to me and he does a big running scoot and hands the disc off. That's purposefully there because I wanted a retrieve that I could score for USDDN. That's a scoreable element, having creative retrieves. So you want to start thinking about that as well. Where can I have the dog hand me a disc? Because that is a scoreable element, and it also gets you another disc for your disc management. So I want you to start thinking creatively about that. So you have your segments, right? Maybe you put 4 or 5 things together and you really like those things. I want you to know how many discs you need for that set. And then you're going to have an out throw, and then you're going to be picking up discs. Now let's say your next set is a multiple and you only need 2 discs for that. I don't want you picking up 4 discs. I want you picking up the 2 that you need. 1, 2, move towards your dog. Execute your multiple, do your out throw, and then pick up the discs that you needed for the next set. So I want you to start thinking about your disc management, plan it ahead of time. I know that I need 4 discs for this section. I need 6 discs for this section. If you have a section in your freestyle routine where you need 6 discs, you probably want that section to be towards the front and the beginning of your routine, because that's when you're going to have the most discs. At the end of your routine, I usually don't ever need any more than 4, because it's kind of hard to collect more than that, especially in Skyhound's format, because you're only allowed 5 discs. At the last set, if you can reduce the amount of discs that you need for your last freestyle set, if you play a lot of Skyhounds, you want to make sure that your last set is one that you don't need as many discs for, because your stuff might be spread out across the field. Even if you have all of this perfectly planned out, all of your disc management's perfectly planned out, it's unlikely that it's going to go perfect. Like your dog can just tip one and it'll roll out of bounds into some tent. And if you're playing Skyhounds, you only have 5 discs, now you're down to 4. So that's a huge difference. Right? But if you have some plans about where things are supposed to be, or some extra little ways that you'll be able to get a disc back, those are really important skills to have in place. Also, I wanted to circle back around to the cadence of your freestyle routine. We had talked about putting multiples kind of in the middle. So when you're building your freestyle routine, I want your cool stuff to be at the beginning. Like your cool move, I want it to be in your first set, your coolest move. That's going to get the judge's attention. Wow, something cool happened, I'm paying attention. Now, sometime around the middle of the routine, it's going to slow down a little bit. That's a great place to put a nice creative multiple. Now, this isn't like a formula, like you have to have it this way, but if you're learning how to build a routine, this is a great way to start. So put your great stuff, one great move in your first set at the beginning. And remember, if you have a lot of discs that you need for disc management in the beginning, you want to use them there. You want to put that set there. If you need 6 discs, you want to make sure your really cool move and your high disc management moves that set is going to be at the beginning of your freestyle routine. In the middle, in second set, third set, that's where I like to put my multiple. So it takes it from like, bam, big start, super cool stuff's happening, dog's running. And then it slows down a little bit and you do something cool and creative that shows control. It shows teamwork. Maybe you guys are dancing together, moving together. Your dog's executing some really cool tricks. You're slowing it down a little bit. The other really important thing here is your dog is running for 2 minutes straight, like really hard, right? And so it's important, if you want them to have gas at the end of your freestyle routine, that you give them a little bit of a pause in the middle. It also gives the judges a moment to catch up, because the judges have to judge everything that you're doing. So if you have a dog like Moxie, super fast, right? And you boom, 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 out throw, boom, 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 out throw. It's going to be hard for them to keep up and track what you're actually doing. So you might not actually get credit for everything that you're doing. So these are human judges. They don't have videos to go back and review. So you want to make sure that you're showing them the skills that you're doing and you're giving them time to be able to process those skills. Put your tricky stuff in the middle. I like putting multiples, directional movement, passing stuff in the middle. And at the end, I want to hit them with another really cool trick. You want to finish really strong at the end and give them something to remember. So in the beginning, I'm giving them a bow, cool move, something really cool that gets their attention. They're like, wow, this team's going to be fun to watch, right? Give them a little bit of a lull in the middle. Do some really creative, thoughtful trick stuff, handler movement stuff, dance stuff, creative throws, multiples, that sort of thing. Skill movements in the middle. And then at the end, hit them with another great move, another big, powerful set, and leave them with a great impression at the end. And remember, at the end, you're not going to have access to as many discs, most likely. So you want to start to think about a set that doesn't require as many discs at the end. Okay. Let me see if I missed any questions. Do you think backhands are more acceptable in doing a multiple? Yes, I definitely do. And I think that Lucas is asking, do you think that backhands are more acceptable when doing a multiple? Yeah, that's pretty much the only place I would have a backhand, a regular backhand release would be in a multiple and have it be totally acceptable. You can easily throw them under your leg. You could throw an upside down grip, and that changes it from a traditional backhand to a regular backhand. It's a real close-up throw, usually for your multiples, so most people are using a backhand grip there, and I think that's totally acceptable. For multiples, is it better to hand off, or can you cue the drop? It is a higher level skill to have it be a handoff. But if that doesn't showcase your dog well, do the drop. If they're not going to drop quickly in your hand, it's going to show they're too grippy, and that's going to hurt your dog score. So remember, you don't want your dog to be chomping on the disc. You don't want them to be barely holding onto the disc and it hanging from their mouth. You want a nice grip. That's a scored element. You want a nice grip on that disc without chomping, that they'll let it go nice and easily. And also, handing it off to you, dropping at a distance. Those are important, that they'll do both of those things. Can a flip segment be considered a multiple? Yes, it absolutely is. Yachi's opening set is a multiple, and it's 4 different flips at 8 feet in the air with this amazing whip it, and with crazy, like a sidearm flip. And so yes, I have one with Freebird. Yeah, that flips is a great way of creating multiple, and you can really change up the different releases and stuff. I had a flip multiple with Cat as well. 32 is my max. All right, let me see if I miss any more questions. Thanks, Bella. Does USDDM build routine do well in Skyhounds typically? I believe that a USDDM built routine does well in every single format, so that's why I use it. I build one routine for USDDN format, and I believe if I can win which I haven't yet, it's a goal. If I can win USDDN with that routine, I think that routine can win anywhere. And I've won all the other organizations with USDDN format, but I've only, the best I've ever done is second in USDDN. So that's a goal. One day. It's all going to go bad in the moment. It does. something always goes a little crazy. All right, let's see what I got here. Any other questions before I move on? I used to do a backstall mid-routine so we could breathe. Yeah, that's important, just to give the judges a moment to breathe. Give your dogs a moment to breathe. Go out with a bang. It's very clever, Bella. I wonder whose song that is. Not this year. We're changing it up. Got to do something different. What do you do to practice throwing a back vault? I'm brand new to disc altogether. Started last March, my border collie and lab. I practice the throw and video it. One really fun way to kind of practice your vault throw, if you can do this, is I put like a little hook in the ceiling and a string, and then I drill a hole in the disc and put the string through and tie a knot so the disc is like hovering at the spot where you want your vault to go. This is if you're doing it solo. If you have a friend or partner training with you, you can just have them put their hand up. But what I would practice is I put myself in the vault position. I pretend my dog is there. I look at my pretend dog that's not there, and I say vault. I'm posing, right? And then I go down in position, look, and throw. Down in position, look, and throw. So I practice the whole body movement, because the throw, it's not just the throw. It's getting into vault position as well. And then I just make sure that the disc would hit the floaty disc that's in the air that you hung from the ceiling, or a friend's hand as a target. You want it to hit just nice and soft on the bottom of that disc. I video all my stuff. So if I'm practicing a new vault skill, I'll video it. Otherwise, you don't have any idea how you're throwing or what your mistakes are. So you learn a lot by videoing your practice sessions. I would say now I probably don't video new skills with a dog unless I'm working on like the first time I'm ever vaulting with a new dog. I would video that. But once the vaulting is down, then I'm just videoing sequences of moves so that I can kind of get an idea what's missing, what my position is, what I need to adjust. That's all stuff you can't see live time. So video is super important. I would video all of your practice sessions with your dogs. This is hard stuff. It's fun. My new song is not AJR. It's it's very different and very fun, and I can't help be very excited about it. I have no idea how exactly I'm going to execute it yet, but it's fun, and it's not AJR. Jack finds a tree limb and throws to it. That's a good idea. Yeah, any kind of target you can throw to. You just want the disc to kind of just gently tap it and just spotting the target. And notice when you have a target there, what are you doing? You're looking at the target. So many times you'll see pictures of people vaulting and their heads down when they're throwing their vault. How do you have any idea what you threw if you're not watching your throw? So you should be watching your throw every time. And when you practice and you're throwing to a target, you look. So you want to make sure that you're actually throwing to that target when you're executing with your dog as well. As far as routine building, do you suggest climaxing at the end with your best or most dynamic trick, or doing it rainbow style and build to the middle and then winding down to the end? Absolutely not winding down at the end. Biggest trick at the beginning, biggest trick at the end, and in the middle, I do more of the finesse movements like skills, directional movement, multiples, like the meat of the routine. So I'm blowing their socks off, beginning and end, and in the middle, I'm showing we are capable, we can throw, we have skills, we've done training, we work together as a team, we dance together. I want the judges to be wowed in the beginning and wowed at the very end. Do I have full routines with all my dogs? Any of them have part of the routine and just some improv jamming? Never. I'm a Virgo through and through. So all of my routines, they're completely done all the way down to the collection move, how many discs I need, what throws I'm doing. I have a high level difficulty version of some things and then a simpler version. If it's windy or if I really need a high catch percentage, I might take out some butterflies, and then I have butterfly stuff. Bella really wants to know what my song is. Yeah, so mine is absolutely scheduled and planned all the way down to the final detail. I like being prepared, and that way I'm one of those people that if I don't have a plan, my brain fries and I forget everything, and then I freak out, and then I just throw long backhands and flip catches and I don't have any idea what I'm doing. So I like to have a plan. That was the biggest thing that fixed my balls. Trust you. Yeah, watch your throw. Can you discuss the importance of the arc and timing for the individual dog for a vault? Yeah, I mean, it's totally different depending on each dog. I will come back to that, Teresa. Don't let me forget. Do you consider the timing of the music with your routine building and sequences? What comes first, the song choice or the routine? Good question, and that depends at what place you are with your dog. So for me, what I do is I video my freestyle routine, and then I take music that I like, that I feel like moves well with that dog, and I play it over that. And I see if it matches the tempo of the dog. So now with Leap, I know his tempo, so I can hear it without having to do that. I can hear a song and be like, that's Leap's tempo. So I can hear that in a song, right? Birdie, that's Birdie. Crazy Birdie, right? So they're very different. They'd have very different songs. I do have some strategies for finding songs. I don't have that on my list, but we can just talk about it. For talking about freestyle music, what I'm looking for is something that will make people move or sing. Okay, so I want people to either move or sing by hearing it. Like they hear it and they just want to that's what I want for my freestyle routine. I want people to feel the music. That's super important. A lot of times I'll try and find a song that's relatable. Like people might know the music, or it's nostalgic in some way. Black Betty was like that for Moxie. Trying to brought back the whole rock thing, which I thought was great. And also it's important that the tempo of the song not only matches your dog, but that it has variety through the whole song. So you don't want a driving beat that stays the same the entire song. It's boring. What you want is something that starts and then it has a boom, like a drop, right? And then a different rhythm, and then a boom and a drop. You can use those little drops to create really cool moments in your freestyle routine. Like you hear that part of the song coming and there's a vault coming. And then right as that drop happens, you're sending your dog in the air. Like that's what really separates those top routines, is when the music goes with the elements of the freestyle routine. It doesn't have to be that you restructure your whole freestyle routine around the song. A lot of times you could just find a song that has nice drops, and as long as you have focus elements, cool elements of your freestyle routine that go to that same kind of tempo, it just works well with the song. So the biggest suggestion there would be video your freestyle routine and play the music over top of it and see if it matches the cadence of your dog's movement. All right. Are you including disc throwing during the middle part of the dancing session? Yes. So, not all organizations, but most organizations do not acknowledge movement that does not include a disc being thrown, especially the more traditional like AWI, UFO, Skyhounds. If there's not a disc being thrown, it doesn't count. So like when people are doing arm overs, the dog's jumping over the arm, do them. That's fine. It's not a unique move. A million people do it, but throw a disc. If you do leg weaves and then you just go into another movement, you don't incorporate a disc anywhere, it doesn't set your dog up for something, you're not really going to get credit for that, especially in the more traditional organizations. Now you're looking at UpDog, USDDN, those organizations do acknowledge that. Even the Incredible Dog Challenge does acknowledge like the dancing, coordinated team movement, those are scored elements. But for the other original disc organizations, they do not. So I always encourage people to make sure that you're including throws in with the with any of that handler movement, dancing, the obedience stuff, all that stuff. I would just make sure you're putting your dog in a position for the next throw that isn't front. Like don't do a dancing thing and then line your dog up in front and throw a flip. Right? Do a dancing thing, put your dog in a unique position, twist your body, and then execute a flip. So make it look like you're putting your dog in that position creatively for that next move, and that's how it ties it back into the disc to have it be like an advancement of a basic move. All right, let me see. Are you including disc throwing during the middle part? I already just did that. One of my agility friends had trouble with taking their eye off the dog to execute vaults. Yeah, trusting the dog, right? So like you're looking at the dog and then you have to trust and look at your throw. That's just practice. Anybody that's done a freestyle course with me, like a live seminar, that's something that we do. I say, look at your dog, now look at your disc. Look at your dog and look at your disc. And you just have to practice and force yourself to get used to trusting that the dog knows what the dog needs to know. If you watch your dog and you try to vault that way, you're not going to have any idea what's going on with your throw. So that's more dangerous for the dog. Is it individual routines for each dog? Any sets that you do with? No, I do not know. Absolutely not. So the question is it individual routines for each dog? Yes. Are there any sets that I do with more than one dog? Never. Now that I have 3, I'm hoping for some overlap. Nope. Don't do it. It's one of the things that I would say as a handler that's worked with multiple dogs for a long time, that's something judges are looking for. And that's something that people say is like, oh, you can't tell the difference between her working this dog and that dog. They all look the same. So you want to make sure that if you're working multiple dogs, you're building your routine around the strengths of the dog. So one of my dogs might be like Leap is great at big overs. Birdie is not. So for a free bird, I need to have a completely different strategy. They're not going to look the same at all. Now I might have a juggle that has kind of a bouncing thing, right? But I'm going to have to completely change it, tie it into something else, put her strengths in there to make it hers. But I purposefully, I give a move to a dog and then I try not to use that move. If it's a specialty move or anything like that, I don't use it for a second dog. I invested in one dog and that's the move they get. And if I want to give that to a different dog a different year, I do, but I don't ever use the same set over and over again. Yeah, I was doing vaults with my dog, but I stopped because it was all me screwing up. So now I do it with no dog so I don't injure him. Yes. Get your throw down first. And I guess we can go back to what Teresa said. Teresa was talking about the arc of a vault, which is actually super valuable to talk about. I'm just trying to think about how do I actually explain that, because it totally depends on the dog's jumping style. So Freebird is a dog that does not collect well. She really struggles to collect, but she vaults well. She doesn't over well, right? So my vault placement for her is different from my vault placement for Leap. Leap collects very well. So for Leap, my vault placement is high and close. So I put it here-ish, right? If I put it here-ish for Freebird, she's going to bop underneath of it. She can't catch it. So for Freebird, it has to be out here, further away from my body. So she has room for her body to go extend out because she doesn't pop when she jumps. Now, Kat, when I was playing freestyle with her, she had ridiculous jumping ability. So if I threw a Leap vault for her, she would float for so long that by the time she caught it, she would come nose down and land really hard on her front. So for her, I actually had to throw it late. So I would have to show it, trigger, let her vault, and then as she was up there, I would pop it in her mouth. So the arc of the vault, as Teresa asked earlier, adjusts based on your dog's ability to leap. And that's going to totally depend on their structure, their fitness level, if you've trained rear end collection leaping or not, or you're just going with what they naturally offer. Every dog is going to have a slightly different vaulting style. And so you need to adjust the height and the distance from your body for every dog to get the right position. And how are you going to figure that out? Video all your vaulting. When you're learning it, it's so easy to see on video. It's really hard to see when you're down in that vaulting position. You won't know why the dog's missing it. So I would say I would practice, okay, this is my leap throw. This is my leap throw. This is my leap throw. Okay, now this is my freebird throw. This is my freebird throw. This is my freebird throw. And when I was in finals last year, even though I was purposefully thinking, I need to throw my freebird throw here. I'm so patterned to throw my leap throw, I threw my leap throw anyway. All right, so it takes a lot of practice to, in the moment, think about the thing that you need to do, but also be able to execute it differently than you would normally comfortably execute it. So the arc of the throw for a vault is different for every single dog, and it's going to depend on what their leaping ability is. So if you have one dog that leaps very well and then your next dog doesn't, you may have a hard time transitioning to another vault throw with that dog, with the new dog. You may have trouble getting success even though you can throw a nice vault with the first dog because the arc of the throw needs to be different for the second dog. So I would say the biggest thing there would be to video it. Okay, so we're getting towards the end. I want to make sure I want to cover, is there anything on here I definitely wanted to cover? And anything I needed to come back to? I think I came back to everything I wanted to come back to. Okay, two things. Jack just added a really cool randomizer tool to the Disc Dogging with Dre group. On Facebook, there's a group called Disc Dogging with Dre. It is my private group. It is a paid group. It's $20 for one-time entry. You don't ever have to pay again, and you have lifetime entry. We put a lot of exclusive training videos on there. We released a course on there for free. You get video feedback. Really, the purpose is to have a grassroots effort, to have a community of people all working on the same kind of training and exchanging ideas. We shared a randomizer on there. So when you're building your freestyle routine, now you know you have these elements, right? I want you to have vaults, overs, dog catches, passing, directional movement, and multiples. I want you to have those in your freestyle routine. How do you know where to put them? How do you know how to build an actual inside freestyle set? So I want you to take every single throw and put it on a list. I do spreadsheets because I'm a total nerd, right? So I do everything on Google. I use Google Sheets. And so under my throws, I'll write every single throw I know how to throw ever. Every single throw. Upside down backhand, behind the back backhand, under the left leg backhand, under the right leg backhand, a chair, which is behind both legs backhand, a jumping chair. That's just backhands, right? And then do all your different sidearms, all your different overhand wrist flips. So your skip throws, those are different. All those different throws, okay? And then in another column, I want you to put all your different moves. And your moves are going to be your vaults, your dog catches, your overs, all those things that where a disc is thrown, okay? Every single move that you know how to do. Now, let's say you have some moves or some throws that you're working on, but they're not done yet. Put them on the list and put a little asterisk next to them. So you know that it's something you're working on, it's on your list, but it's not done yet. Once you have it at 85, 90% success, go ahead and take the asterisk off and put it in your routine. I don't put anything in my routine that isn't 85% plus success rate. With a dog like Leap, I don't put anything in my routine unless it's like 95%. He catches really well. So if it's a brand new dog and you're a brand new player, give yourself some grace. If you're looking at 75% catch ratio, go ahead and put it in your routine. If you're not at 75% catch ratio, don't put it in your routine. Keep it simple. A judge would rather see you execute something safely and well than seeing you do something you do not have the skill to be able to do. It's terrifying sometimes sitting in a judging chair and watching people try things where you can see it in slow motion going bad and you don't want the dog to get hurt. So we would always rather see at 75% catch ratio success. I'd like to see you trying new stuff, but I want it to be safe. So that's where the asterisk comes in. Put it on your list, and once you get to 75% success ratio, go ahead and put it in. If you're a newer player, if you're an intermediate or an advanced level player, you want to really have it at 85 or 90% success before you put it in your freestyle routine. And by success in that regard, I mean that in a freestyle set, you get that success ratio. If you're a new player, what I mean by 75% success is if you're working on that individual move, if you're working a leg vault, and you can get a leg vault at 75% success, go ahead and put it in your freestyle routine. If I'm not looking for the whole segment to be that way. Okay, so now we have our list, right? We have all of our throws, we have all of our moves. Here's the next one. All of your transitions. I want another column with every single transition you know how to do. A transition's a setup move or something that gets you in one set or into a different position. Some different transitions are a fakie or a rebound. There's a bunch of different names for that. It's when the dog comes up and rebounds off your body without a disc. An arm hoop, flag and flash, that's a transition. A scoot is a transition. Around one way is around the other way. A backwards through, or P-Vibe calls that a rut, is a transition. These are all ways to collect your dog. Okay? I want you to make another list of all your transitions. Now, in a perfect world, when you're building your freestyle routine, when you put these things together and you take one of those throws and you put it in your segment, it's off the table. Don't use it again. Okay, so my goal in my freestyle is I have 0 repeats. 0 repeated throws, 0 repeated moves, 0 repeated transitions. So I don't use the same scoot twice. I don't use an around twice. I don't use a rut twice. I don't use an arm hoop twice. Arm overs, by the way. Arm overs, that's another transition move. It collects your dog. So anything that collects your dog can go into that category. And don't repeat them. Now, again, as a new player, you're not going to have a big, long list of stuff. So if you're going out for your first freestyle routine, you want to, just build something to have out there and you want 90 seconds, build a really nice strong set, put in some directional movements and passing and a multiple, and then you can always repeat that first set again at the end. So a judge is not going to be like mean to you. They know that you're new players. They want you to be successful. So I'd really like to see a nicely executed first routine, first segment. And if you need to repeat that at the end to make sure you have enough time to fill out your 90-second or 2-minute routine, you can go ahead and do that. But otherwise, don't repeat anything. That's a good goal to have. It doesn't mean right out of the gate you're going to be able to do that, but that's the goal. Don't repeat anything. And if you run out of things, that's more stuff to train, right? New tricks to train, new throws to work on, new movements, new body position for vaults and overs. If we don't push ourselves to try new stuff because we're repeating everything, you're going to have a pretty vanilla freestyle routine. And what we want is creativity and coming up with new innovative ideas. So on the Disc Dogging with Dre group, there is a randomizer we put on there. So once you have your list of all your throws, all your moves, and all of your transitions, you can plug those into the randomizer and it'll shoot out random moves together. And then you can take that first set of like 6 random things and just try to figure out how to make those things work in that order. Okay? That's a great way. That's my favorite thing to do is jam. I call it jam camp. And that's when we get together with like 4 players over 4 hours and we just combine different combinations of random moves that are on flashcards or in a randomizer. And just figure out how to make those moves work together. Like, how do I get from this position to that position? These 2 things next to each other is really weird. Like maybe it's a dog catch to a side vault. How do I get from a dog catch to a side vault? I don't know. Find a creative way to get there. Everybody's doing flip, leg vault, dog catch, right? But what if you had to do dog catch, leg vault, flip? My brain just blew up. I don't know how to do that, right? So that's a creative way of getting into a different look for a freestyle routine that aren't the same patterns that everybody else is doing. Use a randomizer, or once you make your list, put them on little flashcards and then shuffle up the flashcards and randomize those as well. I wanted to make sure I covered that. Yeah, those are all and weave. Weave is a collection move as well for your transitions. No repeats. Okay, good. That's the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Let me see if there's any other questions as we're finishing up. Bella's very excited about her freestyle songs. Is it okay if the music matches the tempo of the handler? I have so many songs I think would be cool, but I'm always concerned I'm not quite there yet as a novice. I don't do anything by the tempo of the handler. I'm not the one running around. The dog is the one running around. So I always go by the tempo of the dog. I don't even know how I would choose the tempo of a handler. Yeah, that's a good question. I never thought about what my tempo is. I go to whatever. I go as fast as I need to go to keep up with my dog. And Leap is pretty slow compared to Moxie. Birdie's faster, so I go a little faster with her. Lucas, every song I truly like one day, he says every song I truly like is so not appropriate for freestyle. One day I will play to Eminem. One day I'm going to do it. I've been waiting a long, long time. I think it's going to be with Leap. It's going to be Lose Yourself. And I'll find a radio edit and I'm going to do it. You can find a radio edit. Yeah. When you get so Cassie says, hear the music. I never hear my music. That's why you video it and play it over top, because when you're in the bubble playing freestyle, you can't hear anything. Yeah. Brand new to disc, never done freestyle, but I'd like to. What foundational skills would be priorities to teach and train with your dog so that you can get started building a routine? Those are the ones we covered at the very beginning. So I would work on overs, vaults, flips, dog catches. Those are really the big foundational ones. Everything else is going to be a throwing skill. You learning how to throw, directional movement and passing and execute a good throw at a distance. But vaults, overs, dog catches, and flips, I would say, are like the critical nuts and bolts of a freestyle routine. What about developing a routine without vaults for dogs who are aging or for dogs who have zero self-preservation? Still training the youngest and thoughtful catching, but still interested in your thoughts. You can absolutely have a routine without vaults. Yep. Yeah. Mona did it with Leica and she won everything. She had overs and she had dog catches, but she didn't have any vaults. I don't think you need them. How often and why should you change your dog's routine? That's a great question. Should the handler stick to the same routine for a few years and improve the execution with small variations only? I love that question. Okay, so I change something in my routine every year. This is my goal. So my goal is to have 1 or 2 unique moves that nobody's ever done before each year, usually one. And that can be a variation of something that I already do. I just make it more difficult or creative. So here's the thing, like dog frisbee's been going on for 30 plus years. More than that now, 40 plus years. 70s. So, like most moves have been done in some form, right? So what there is to get creative with what's already there. So take something that you like and modify it and make it your own. My goal with my freestyle is every year to create one new move that's completely new to me or that I haven't seen before, something creative, and to improve one of my freestyle segments. Sometimes that means I take an old segment out that I really don't like or that doesn't showcase the dog well and replace it with a different segment. Sometimes it means taking an existing segment and making it more difficult, like adding a cooler move to it or a new tricky throw or something like that. So every year, every dog, I rework one segment and I usually add one new difficult move. And I do that every single year. And what that happens over the dog's career is they end up with a really robust, difficult, well-developed freestyle routine. Because every year I'm working on one of my 4 or 5 segments. And I'm increasing the creativity and the difficulty of it. So I personally feel like it's biting off more than you can chew to redo your whole freestyle routine every year. I don't play my dogs that much. I don't do high repetition freestyle. They don't train their full freestyle routine off season. If I'm getting ready for competition, then I'm ramping up and practicing their freestyle their segments all together. But otherwise, I'm working on individual moves. I'm working on skills. I'm keeping them fit. I'm working on toss and fetch. I'm not doing a bunch of high repetition freestyle. Once the dog knows the move, they don't need to be executing it all the time. So I'm not rebuilding a freestyle routine every year. I feel like that's overkill. Some people really like working on the fly though. This is just me. This is my Virgo stuff. Like I like to have everything in a line and organized and know exactly what I'm doing. Some people go out there and jam and do really well. That's just not my thing. I can't do that. It freaks me out. I feel like I would just have no idea what I'm actually doing out there. So I do keep the same routine for a dog for a few years. I'm always changing elements or one segment of that routine, bringing in new moves. Another thing that you can do that makes it really interesting is you can swap the order of your segments of your freestyle routine as well. So let's say the segment that was in the first place, maybe you have a really cool new move, but that was in the 3rd segment. You could take that 3rd segment, put it first, take that first one, put it 4th. It totally changes the whole vibe of the freestyle routine. That's also a little insider tip of how to fix disc management issues. If you have a section of your routine where you just can't get the disc management right, you never have the discs that you need, you can't figure it out, it's a problem, try reordering one of the segments of your routine. Just swap one segment with another segment and see if that fixes the disc management issue. It almost always does with me in some way, shape, or form. It just shuffles up where the discs are on the field. I know your arm over routine. I use it to do a setup to an underflip. Do you think I should scrap it? It's a nice set for kneeling down and such. You know my arm over routine. I use it to do a setup to an under up flip. I mean, do I think you should scrap it? I think you should scrap it just because you're questioning whether you should scrap it or not. So yes, put something else cooler there because you don't love it. And if you don't love it, put something else there. All right, bite work. Coming around on both directions, spin, scoots, low-level overs, flips, communication. Thanks, Jack. I also think that looking at your throw lets your dog know where you want them to be. Yeah, I never thought of that. I think the dog is just looking at the disc. Most of the time, they're just going where the disc is. I never thought about that, though. Yeah, if you're looking at something, your dog's going to look at what you're looking at. If one of your dogs is twice the size of your other, I couldn't even dream of doing the same thing with both. Yeah. and your dogs are large. Sarah has a 70, 80 pound German Shepherd and then an adorable Aussie that's about 30. So we're working on dog catches. You're going to get that big old Shepherd catch. Oh, Jack, that's a good point. About the looking at your throw thing, lets your dog know where it is. The pose shows the dog where the disc is going to go, where the disc is going to be thrown. So when you pose the disc for a vault, that's showing the dog where the disc is going to be. Yeah, it certainly does. Showing them, absolutely, gives them a target. They go to that target. Of course, Chrissy, I'm always happy to see that you're out there playing disc. Age-appropriate tricks for younger dogs. Let me think. Multiples, for sure. Dog catches, for sure. You can teach your dog vaulting to a dog catch and avoid all of that landing. Dog catches are great for young dogs. Teaches collection to a target. Any of your out throws, low overs, like you're sitting on the ground with your leg out. Low overs are great for younger dogs. Stalls, where they come up into a controlled position. Those are nice for younger dogs. So, yeah, your throws, dog catches, low overs, stalls, all that stuff is really good for a young dog freestyle. All right, a randomizer, yeah, it's on the thing. It's on the group. Let me see if I got anything else. The name of the group is Disc Dogging with Dre. Barb, you don't need a spreadsheet for your throws. You do! Write down all your throws. If you realize you don't have enough of them, that's when you start working on more throws. How else are you going to know? I do make a spreadsheet. Good question. Should I make a spreadsheet for each dog? I guess technically, because the dog might not have the technical ability to do a move or vault that another dog would do. So I would just duplicate the same. I mean, you're going to have the same throws ability. The only difference is really going to be the moves. Like some dogs may vault when another one doesn't, or some may reverse vault. Like I really don't do many reverse vaults with my dogs now. I don't think I have any reverse vaults in any of my freestyle routines right now. But if I did, it would work with one dog and maybe not another. So I would have that not on the randomizer spreadsheet for the routine building. But in general, I just have a stack of all my different moves on cards, and I just randomize them. And if it comes out with a move that dog doesn't do, I just pull the card. So I don't have a bunch of different stacks of cards for a bunch of dogs. Barb, about the 4 or 5 tricks every dog should know. I answered this a little bit ago, but I'll do it again. We want flips, overs, dog catch, vaults are the main kind of like nuts and bolts of a freestyle routine. If you're looking for like what basic skills should you be teaching them to do freestyle, flips are super valuable, dog catch is super valuable, vaults and overs. And you're not required to do all of those, but if your dog is capable and it's safe to do those are the nuts and bolts of freestyle. And then everything else is really modifications of that in some form, variations of that, and out throws. And technical elements of the out throw, like doing directional movement, passing, multiples, all those things are some variation of an out throw. As far as back vaults go, standing back vault, kneeling back vault, and back to front are different. That's a great question, Bella. Okay, so yes. So we make up whatever words we want for vaulting. Potato. You can call things whatever you want. There's no like real name for anything. But when I'm vaulting, I call a vault that goes from one side of your body to the other a side vault. Okay? And I call it onside and offside vault. So I'm a left-handed player, so I'm throwing from this side. If I'm throwing on the same side of my body as my strong hand, that's called an onside vault. And if I'm throwing under like this, that's called an offside vault in my world. That's just what I call it, so I know. But those are side vaults, right? A back vault is when the dog comes from the back over your head. And that's a blind vault. So a back vault is a blind vault. Okay, it's difficult. It's not, you have to trust your dog to know the behavior. You're basically looking over your shoulder, cueing it, posing it, and then you're turning and committing to throwing it up. You're not looking at your dog. So there's a big difference in execution between side vaults and back vault. I almost always start my dogs with side vaults. I can see them. I have better balance on the side. It's not as risky of a move. And then the back. Okay, so we got cut off. Sorry. Thanks for coming back. Hey, everyone. So we got cut off, but we're pretty much at the end of our time anyway. So thank you guys for being here. That was super fun. We had a little like stress technical at the beginning because I couldn't find the live button, but we found it. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for watching. And if you liked the live, I would love to do another one. Just let us know what you want me to talk about, and we'll schedule another one of these things soon. But that was a lot of fun. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for showing up. And I'll save a version of this on the page so anybody that's like international or sleeping right now can watch a recording of our thing. So thanks guys so much for showing up. I'm so happy, and I love talking with you about routine building. So 3.5 pages of notes later. I'm glad you guys got something out of it. And if you guys have ideas of other lives you want, just post them on the Dragon Dogs page with what you guys want to see, and we'll do another one soon. I hope you all enjoy your training, enjoy your winter. See y'all soon. Bye.